Welcome to In Their Shoes by Shanna Keha. I'm Gaff.
And I'm Bex. We're here to help people connect through the power of shared storytelling.
In this podcast, we invite two people to tell a story about their life. Instead of reading their own story, they'll swap and they'll read each other's as if it was their own.
After both stories are finished, we will dive into the real questions to be asked, feelings that came up, and more moments that have maybe never been shared before.
Come with us as we experience walking in each other's shoes and immersing ourselves in each other's stories.
This episode is brought to you by Mubi, a curated streaming service dedicated to elevating great cinema from around the globe. From iconic directors to emerging auteurs, there is always something new to discover. With Mubi, each and every film is hand-selected, so you can explore incredible movies streaming anytime, anywhere.
Streaming on Mubi in UK and Ireland from March 28th is Bring Them Down by Christopher Andrews, starring Oscar nominee Barry Keoghan from Saltburn and Banshees of Inisherin and Christopher Abbott from Possessor and Sanctuary.
A tense and gripping thriller about two warring families set against the harsh landscape of rural West Ireland. When the ongoing rivalry between farmers, Michael, played by Abbott, and Jack, played by Keoghan, suddenly escalates, it triggers a chain of events that take increasingly violent and devastating turns, leaving both families permanently altered.
So a lot of people I've spoke to that have watched this film have had to watch it with subtitles the whole way through. And the reason is it's not because of our accents, which is usually the case from anything that's coming out of Ireland. It's actually because a lot of it's in Irish, the Irish language.
Oh, yeah.
How incredible.
That's true. It's actually funny. I noticed that when I was watching it, obviously, and it's pretty cool just to see how many movies that are coming out of Ireland do incorporate the Irish language in some way, shape or form. But it is funny because a good few of my friends who've watched that movie and even other movies, they didn't know sometimes if it was Irish or if it was English being spoken, just because the Irish accent is so hard to follow for the non-Hibernian listener. Did you have to have the subtitles on?
I like subtitles. I'm like a freak like that. I like them on no matter what I'm watching. But
same actually.
Yeah, but in this one, it flows in between. It's back and forth, and it's a lot of the times where it's people in the pub talking, so it feels like a bit colloquial as well. And I think if you don't really know, it's not really addressed, and because it's free flowing, you can kind of. It sort of flows in and out of the English language too, so it feels a bit close, but I think that sort of gives the film its own language in a way. But it's just funny to see Christopher Abbott speak in Gaelic,
What do you make of the film anyway? You only watched it last night, didn't you?
It's tense. The first scene is a pretty hardcore car crash, so you're in it straight away. But yeah, it's a lot about revenge. It's about family feuds and just the rage that comes through in these men in these types of environments and small towns. So they do it really well, and it escalates beyond. And there's some really uncomfortable scenes, let's say, with sheep. So
yeah, I've seen some people talk about those online.
Yeah,
Natalie Barry Keoghan just plays the role so well. He's just excellent in every single role he's played. He's just managed to get under your skin. So definitely recommend watching it. You should definitely check it out and see whether you need to use subtitles or not. If you go onto Mubi, it's one of the most recent movies that have been added to what's available on Mubi.
And to stream the best of cinema, you can try Mubi free for 30 days at mubi.com/Shanna Keha. That's mubi.com/SEANCHOICHE for a whole month of great cinema for free.
Hello guys.
Hi.
Hello. Hi. How are things?
Thank you for coming in today. We're really excited to have you both. And then just for everyone here, because I don't think it's super obvious, but you two are twins, right?
Yeah. We're not very similar.
But he's the good looking one.
I was thinking.
No, you're not allowed to say that when you're a twin.
Other people say it. They're like, "Oh, is the hot twin coming?" I'm like, "Yeah, I suppose."
The hot twin is right here. Well, did you tell them?
Oh, I'm a twin too.
Oh,
Yeah,
no
yeah.
way.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I'm not the hot twin either, so we
But you're not allowed to say
don't
that.
know. Exactly,
Yeah.
but we're in that flow now.
Alright,
so
2025, we'll start saying that we're the hot twins.
yeah, we're the hot twins. Sorry.
I like I've obviously had the privilege of knowing you guys both for I think 2 years now. I've known Keelan for years, but Bex, obviously this is your first time meeting Darragh and Tiarnan, and I think the one thing that has struck me throughout the past 2 years of knowing you guys and listening to you share stories at various Shanakia events and also just seeing you guys together is that you are remarkably close as a family, and that seems to not only be within your immediate family but also even by what you're saying about your cousins and that connection to even your mother's home. It's something that seems to very much be a running thread throughout your wider family as well. Has that always been the case? Has that just been something that you haven't even had to think about growing up? It's just been a natural intimate bond that your family have had that maybe...
Well, for me and Tiarnan, I think we didn't really have a choice because we just shared the same room until we were like 17, 18?
Yeah.
And the same
Yeah.
one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the same
Yeah.
way.
And the same room, yeah.
Roommates.
That's-
Yeah.
But yeah, I think as a family we've always been super close. I mean, like as brothers, we used to kill each other when we were younger, but then you get to a certain age and you're like, geez, he's really cool.
Yeah.
And like I get to hang out with him all the time. And then with our extended family, I think my mother was so close with all of her siblings,
Mhm.
and coming to Achill was just a place where we could come, no internet, no nothing, and we had to get to know our cousins really, really well and spend hours outside. And I think we just kept that connection with our extended family, but even our immediate family were all so close. And it's really weird because like for the first time in my life, Darragh isn't living with me.
Yeah.
You know, Darragh's moved to Dublin. I'm in Cork. My older brothers are in Dublin and Germany. So for the first time in my 26 years, we're separate, which feels really weird, but we always find time to meet and talk and
come together.
yeah, exactly.
Like today.
Like
I think
today.
that's a really lovely segue actually into the theme today, which is letting go. So I'm just going to read a little quote. So this is from Jack Cornfield. To let go does not mean to get rid of. To let go means to let be. When we let be with compassion, things come and go on their own. And this is from the book, The Wise Heart, A Guide to the Universal Teachings of Buddhist Psychology.
So Tiarnan, I'm going to introduce you. One of our guests today is Tiarnan O'Donnell, a 26-year-old Paralympian from Limerick, Ireland. A right leg amputee, Tiarnan has demonstrated exceptional versatility in sports, transitioning from captaining Ireland's under-23 wheelchair basketball team to earning a bronze medal at the 2023 European Championships Division C in Sarajevo. In 2024, he made his international rowing debut, competing in the PR2 mixed double sculls alongside Katie O'Brien at the Paris Paralympics. Beyond his athletic achievements, Tiarnan is a mechanical engineering graduate from the University of Limerick, where he balanced rigorous academics with elite sports. How old were you when you had that operation?
The operation started when I was 5 years old, but when I had the amputation was just before I turned 20.
Okay.
So 6 years ago now. It feels like yesterday. But it was only when I had to replace my prosthetic that last 6 years that I was like, oh my God, it's been that long now. But I know nothing else now, so it's just life.
But in a way, like, it seems like you've lived 1,000 lives since that age of 20, you know, like you've achieved so much in such a short space of time. It must feel like a whirlwind, really.
Yeah, it has. And to be honest, only having come back from the Paralympics and taken a few weeks off for the first time in years from sport and from any kind of commitments was the first time that I've sat back and went, wow, I would be very humble and very dismissive of what I've done, but for the first time in 6 years I kind of sat back and went, wow, that was kind of impressive. So it's been amazing the last 6 years.
So we have Darragh O'Donnell. Darragh is a cybersecurity analyst, photographer, playwright from Limerick, and also Tiarnan's twin brother. He was first introduced to Shanakia by his oldest brother Keelan when he surprised his family by sharing his experiences with ADHD. Since then, Darragh has gone on to speak at Shanakia twice. Darragh has also worked as a photographer with Shanakia in Belfast, Dublin, and his hometown of Limerick. He is excited to share his story with his twin and our lovely hosts.
We didn't write that. You wrote that.
I don't know what you're talking about. I didn't write anything.
It was nice to read it.
Yeah,
I'm gonna read that.
I was like,
in bed at
give you a
night.
little
Like,
compliment.
Maybe that's what you are, Matthew. That's you, lovely host.
yeah, lovely host.
Just lovely on your arm and then host.
Yeah.
No, Darragh, it's great to have you in as well.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for coming along for the ride. I didn't know you were a playwright until you mentioned it at Shanachie a couple of months ago.
Yeah. No, I haven't written anything in a while though. But actually no. Last February, I did like this project called Nest with about 20 other artists out in Blanchardstown in Dublin.
I think it's really nice that you're sort of, you've got sort of the writing, that sort of creative side, and then you've lent into sports, and it's I don't know what it's like in your family dynamic, but if you all sort of like have your own interests like that, or do you overlap a bit in your interests?
We're very different. Like for me, I'm the only person in my family with any sort of sporting ability. Like my older brothers are useless.
Thanks.
Darragh's also useless.
We play rounders during the summer. It gets pretty intense.
But in the same breath, like sitting in front of a page and trying to be creative for me would be impossible, and I can't imagine having to try do that and express myself in that way. Shanachie is the only time I ever do that, really. But Darragh finds it so easy, and I've been to Darragh's plays and I've been to Darragh's shows where he's acted, and like to me that's just as impressive, if not more impressive to me, that he's able to do that. So yeah, my perspective on it is very, very different, but he can talk a little bit more about our brothers, but like, they're all into their own things as well.
I really want to get into the stories now, because I think we're like ready to hear what you both have to say. So I think we're going to start with you, Darragh, reading Tiernan's story.
Perfect. I can't start my story without talking about my family. Born to two amazing parents, a farmer from Donegal and a teacher from Achill. I am one of four boys, my older brothers, Keelan, Ronan, and my twin Darragh. We've had a privileged upbringing, not wanting for much, but we have had a few turbulent years. Keelan, my oldest brother, has had a battle with his demons, but has come out the other side a stronger person. Ronan battled a brain aneurysm. Ronan battled a brain aneurysm from infancy and is a walking miracle. Lastly, Darragh. My best friend and twin is the funniest person I know, yet behind the smile he too has had to battle his own demons. The biggest demon of which, his hairline.
Sorry, that's so mean.
Cheeky fucker.
I like the buzz cut.
Then there's me. I was a totally normal, carefree child. My biggest worry was if I got the 101 Dalmatian spoon for my cereal in the morning. Often there was an early morning wrestling match for it. Coming into the long summer evenings, we were getting ready for the best day in every primary school child's calendar, the sports day. The sports day was important for so many reasons. It was the last day of school, but more importantly, is when the fastest runner, highest jumper, and the most skillful sports person was determined. I was 5, but I thought I was stepping into the Coliseum that day. At that age, sport was all that mattered to me. Ironically, a gust of wind would have put me on my back, but I never feared getting stuck in. Sports day was no different. That day, from what I can remember, went off without a hitch. But I brought no medals home to the O'Donnell household. I came home exhausted, but school was out and I was free from all the stresses of basic addition, subtraction and spelling bees. We had trips to the farm in Donegal, the beach in Achill and the pool in Spain, all planned for the coming months. However, that evening, things took a change. As I came in to say my goodnights, my mother asked me why I was walking so delicately on my right leg. Putting it down to overexertion or a bad tackle by a classmate, my parents put me to bed to let me sleep it off. Unfortunately, this limp didn't cease in the morning, and it marked the first major change in my life. The start of letting go of life as I knew it. What preceded were weeks of tests to determine
You're doing
Are
really
you
well.
okay?
Thank you. Yeah, no, I'm all good. I don't know why my voice just started shaking, and I was
It's
like, I
so
need to
fine.
straighten this thing out.
No, it's grand.
What preceded were weeks of tests to determine what was going on with me. Hours in bleak, aggressively lit hospital waiting rooms. My nose was stinging from overly sanitized hands. This new clinical environment seemed so strange to me. Unfortunately, this was all too familiar place for my parents. They'd spent the previous 6 years living in a hospital with my brother. Ronan was born with a malformation in the biggest artery in his brain. Sorry, what the fuck?
It's okay, man. You just need
Yeah.
to
Yeah, it's a
take.
lot.
We have loads of time
Yeah.
as well. So
I need
you're
to work
not
on
gonna-
like my breathing exercises. Oh my
Yeah,
god.
yeah.
Okay,
You're doing really well.
thank you.
It's actually really powerful the way you're reading it.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Okay.
Feels like I'm listening to Andrew
Yeah.
Garfield.
Thank you.
I've read this so many times, and even I'm like,
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I've read this before and I was fine.
It's 'cause you're,
That's what I'm saying. When you're in the room, it's very
yeah,
different.
and it's in your voice as well.
Yeah.
Okay. Alright. Ron was born with a malformation in the biggest artery in his brain. He was told he would never survive past infancy. Whether he believed in a higher power or not, something pulled him through the unsurvivable. Maybe it was an example of strength for me. With Ronan just out of the woods, I soon took his place. I was eventually diagnosed with a tumour so rare I was the 16th person in the world ever diagnosed with it. Pity I couldn't have the same luck with the lottery. This unfortunate luck was not only took my ability to walk, but it took my ability to play sports too. However, from that age, my family never let me look past my disability as anything other than an opportunity. Through every prick of a needle, heartbreaking setback, or agonizing attempt to get some rest, my family were at my side. Whether it was running their hands through my hair, wiping the sweat from my brow, or giving me an extra painkiller to take the edge off, they've always been consistent in my journey. At 19, after years of hospital visits, 20 plus surgeries and countless setbacks, we accepted the reality that amputation was the only real option I had left. We, together, made the decision to cut my losses. This would mean that I'd be spending the next few months hopping around like the lamp from Pixar until I learned to walk again. Having just made this very final decision, my head was racing. I kept stressing over what this could mean for me in so many aspects: life, love, sport and work. To which my family retorted it in their typical fashion with dark but yet endearing humour. Sure, look, you can always be a bouncer,
Sorry.
a hopscotch world champion, or a great partner for a three-legged race.
it's true.
Never again would there be an argument over who gets the top bunk.
Classic twin thing, though.
Classic.
We turned the potential negative change into a positive one. In the weeks leading up to the operation, mere hours before flying to London for the big schnip, the family put together a surprise party for me in the local pub. The room was decorated in amputee jokes, memes and material. My personal favourite was never skip leg day. To finish the night, we took a photo with my nearest and dearest under the banner of the theme of the night, Let's Get Legless.
There was a few people walking worse than me that night, to be fair.
Yeah,
That
absolutely.
was a good send-off.
The next morning, I said some very emotional goodbyes with my loved ones as I left for the airport. Having just consoled my entire family and promised them I'd be okay, I hopped in the car with my brothers. Usually we fought for the front seat, but today it was different. I wanted to sit in the worst seat in the car. The middle seat. Just so I could be close to the people that loved me the most. We took off from the house. It was a 35-minute drive to the airport. I remember the deathly silence in the car. It was like we were driving to a funeral. In a way we were. Just this funeral was for my leg. There wasn't much anyone could have said to me at the point to ease my mind, and to be honest, I didn't begrudge my brothers for the silence. However, with tension building as the runway came within view, my brother passed the aux to my twin. He was told to put on a good song for the last portion of the trip. With millions to choose from, he chose New Shoes by Paul Nutini. I love Paul Nutini.
Great tune. Great tune.
For those who don't know what the song is about, it's an incredibly upbeat song which was in stark contrast to the vibes in the car. Paolo sings about feeling horrendous and how the world is against him, but then he puts on a new pair of shoes and everything seems alright. Knowing I was coming back with one shoe on and the other in the suitcase, it seemed quite cruel, but we all exploded in laughter. It took the weight of the world off my shoulders, and I was finally feeling like the change in shoes for me wasn't going to be too bad. From that point on, I smiled the whole way to the operating room, thinking about the lyrics, letting go of the fear of what is to come and embracing the new chapter that was about to start. As I woke up from surgery, still woozy, I checked my phone to see well wishes from my loved ones, only to see that Keelan, my oldest brother, had changed the family group chat name to Tiarnan Has One Leg, which it still remains today. Just another example of my family's crude humour. I'm not sure if this is a healthy way of overcoming change, but it's what we do. It's probably not a good way, is it?
Definitely not.
I like it though.
But we do it, so it's fine.
Although a daunting prospect trying to adjust to this new life, my family never left my side. They turned our good living room, the one that only gets used for special guests and Christmas, into my new bedroom. For the next few weeks, each of my brothers took turns waiting on me hand and foot. Emphasis on the foot part. My mother's ring for Prosecco bell was repurposed as a way for me to get my family's attention if I ever needed them. Probably a sound that now would give them the heebie-jeebies, much like the iPhone alarm sound. Although it was tough, I feel blessed for what I went through. This journey has completely changed my outlook on life. I often get comments like, "I'm so sorry about your leg, dear," or "Oh, you poor creator." These mainly coming from older, well-intentioned ladies that walk worse than I do. For me, I wouldn't change the way I am, even if I had a genie in the bottle. This has opened so many doors for me and has taken me to places I never thought I would. I may have lost my ability to play in mainstream sports like rugby or soccer, but it sent me down a path I never would have envisioned. Now that I was pain-free and healthy, I could finally focus on sport and reach the Covenant, the first place that evaded me since sports day. Although now, in a wheelchair, the goal is still the same, to win. However, all was not meant to be, and we came third in the European Championships. Nobody likes a show off anyway. More recently, my life has taken another unexpected turn. A girl slid into the DMs and told me I have a perfect body for rowing. Not knowing if she was flirting with me or genuinely intrigued by the approach, I responded. Little did I know that she was world-renowned rower Katie O'Brien. She asked me if I ever considered rowing as an option. After 10 years in basketball, I was finally reaching my potential. Why throw this all away for a shot in the dark? Maybe it was time for a new pair of shoes. Katie eventually convinced me to come watch her race, in which she had set another world record. After that, I knew she was serious business. She elaborated on her intentions that day, and to my surprise, the intentions were purely platonic, and very much focused on sport. She told me that she was looking for a partner to race in a boat with her at the Paralympics this summer, and thinks I could be the man for her. So I finished my final engineering exam in college and headed straight for the boathouse in the university for my first ever rowing session. The closing of one chapter in my life quickly started the next one. I approached my parents nervously to tell them that I wanted to throw my degree up on the wall and leave it there for a while so I could chase this Paralympic dream. I don't know whether it was in an effort to avoid getting a job and having to grow up, but it felt right. I knew my mother would be all for it, as she's always been a big supporter of everything I did. My dad, a farmer turned engineer, a cowboy wheeler dealer and penny grabber, was my biggest worry. He has always wanted what was best for me, but I feared he might think it was a bad idea turning down good opportunities to pursue this venture. However, he didn't bat an eyelid, and he said in a thick Donegal accent, I don't know if I'll do the accent. We'll try the accent.
Go for it.
I feel like I'm just going to do Jerry Adams. Like, we're behind you, big man.
It's pretty good.
So embracing this new change, I moved to a new part of Ireland and was thrown into the deep end at the Olympic Rowing Centre. I'm blessed to train every day with some of the best Olympic and Paralympic athletes Ireland has to offer. Again, an opportunity that would have never come my way if it wasn't for everything that I went through. This summer I had the privilege of representing Ireland at the Paralympics, just 18 months after switching shoes. The most eye-opening thing about the whole experience was meeting the incredible athletes from all different walks of life. So many different races, creeds and religions, all coming together and living symbiotically. Something I would love to see more of both at home and abroad. These athletes show the world that although they've experienced some tough changes, they've come through the other side, stronger people. Finally, since I moved to Cork, another opportunity has come my way. Again, all as a result from an Instagram DM from a woman. This time it was the mother of a child who was having a difficult time at school. Jack, who's 10, and like me, is an amputee. He's getting teased by classmates about the way he walks. I don't believe this is coming from a bad place, but rather youthful ignorance. Different is weird at that age. However, strength lies in differences, not in similarities. I went to visit Jack a few days later to talk with him about what he was going through, and to show him what life with one leg as an adult might look like. I wanted to show him that different was cool and to be proud of who he is. Jack is the embodiment of the boy I used to be. I see everything I was in him. A child just trying his hardest to run, jump and kick the ball as far as his classmates. A child trying to win a medal at sports day. A child so pure and full of happiness, but just a little confused as to what life with a disability means. It doesn't mean much. It just means we have to do things a little different. I visit him every few weeks, whether it's to chat, play video games, or most recently talk about the multiple girlfriends he's been juggling in class. Girlfriends is in quotes. The man has a better love life than me. And me. Being able to come full circle and provide that guidance to Jack has been a special opportunity that I cherish dearly. It's given me clarity that when the world seems most against you, turn around and see those who care most for you and are right along for the roller coaster. Face the lows together and eventually get ready for the inevitable highs to follow. Thank you.
Oh, Bella.
Yeah.
Well done. Honestly.
Amazing.
Excellent.
Thank you.
How
Oh.
the room feels like the room feels light but also loaded with like emotion
Yeah.
Yeah.
being even in between you guys
Yeah.
while that has happened. How do you feel?
It was wild because, like, you know, like I'd read it the night before. We were like up to like 3 going through like just doing like readings and like timing it and see like, okay, it's running for this long. But you know, we had read it the night before, and I was fine. It was that like the middle seat part always choked me up when I was reading it. I was like, oh, that's so sweet. But just there reading it, like, I guess audibly, I don't know. I felt like the shake, and I was like, oh my god.
Yeah, it was like, I felt like it felt beautiful though, because it's like so real, like, and that experience, and then, you know, like even just getting an insight into your family, like your parents, like how much they must have gone through, and like credit to them of like being such a strong unit and getting used to where you got to. But as you said, like your parents being in hospital for so much of like your childhood, and then raising all of you is like even that, like just getting more insight into that is just like quite emotional, because like it's such a I'd say like nightmare for parents, you know.
Crazy, yeah. Like a lot of my operations were in London, and the hardest thing for me when I was growing up having these surgeries was the boys couldn't come visit me. They were in school. And then for my parents, both my parents worked, so they would take turns coming up back and forth to London,
That's crazy.
but also trying to juggle raising kids at the same time. And it's only now that I'm older that I realized how much they went through and the pain that they were probably feeling because they couldn't do anything to help me. I remember so many times lying in bed crying in pain and agony, and my parents just looking at me and just wanting to take the pain away, and they could never do it. And I get emotional thinking about it now because I could see in their eyes how painful it was and that they wanted to just take it all away, but they couldn't, and it was that helpless feeling. But just having them close to me was all I needed, and it made the journey to being here today much easier for me.
How did you feel at the time finding this out about your twin brother and knowing that he was going through that and then being separated for quite a chunk?
Yeah, it's kind of wild. You know, it's only through like rereading, you know, like reading that story, I feel like so much of that time was just like, it was a blur, because it was just like there'd be stints that you'd be at home and then there'd be long stints that you're away and stuff like that. And just remembering like things like, you know, that like little leg sleeve that used to wear there was like one like looked like tight.
Looked like I was wearing tights. Yeah,
it looked like wearing tights.
I was very insecure about that.
Oh,
Glad you brought it up on the podcast.
You look great with it. It's just one leg, which I think would really like go off right now.
It's kind of niche.
yeah.
But I think what kind of got me was like now I see him, he's just like this fucking he's just like this fucking superstar athlete, and you know, I think I'd forgotten all the kind of pain and struggle that you went through before the surgery, and how much it kind of just fucking liberated you. It just like I think a big coping mechanism for me, but also us as a family, was always laughter. And there's a story that when Darragh was speaking there that just kind of reminded me there that I haven't thought about in a long time. One of my operations, they were trying to lengthen my leg and straighten it out because I couldn't straighten it. So I had a full length cast with my leg completely horizontal. So this made going to the bathroom quite difficult.
Oh yeah.
So I remember we were in the visitors room and I was trying to go to the bathroom, but I obviously needed people to help me in and all of this. So I just wanted my mom or my dad to help me, but sure, I had the full audience and like the big struggle, and I was trying my hardest to just get this basic human need done, but the boys standing there laughing at me, pointing at me when I was at my lowest almost. But
we're not delicate with him, no.
Yeah, but like that's now I look back at that fondly.
Yeah.
Whereas that could have been like a really bad memory of being in pain and the struggles of trying to just do basic things. But now I look back at it and I'm like, oh, that was hilarious. And that's what brought light to the situation. I think that's how we've coped with everything from Ronan to me, and then with Darragh and Keelan's own struggles as well. I think we have that laughter.
There probably are people listening to this episode that are going through quite seismic changes right now, whether it's a change in health, a new disability, some sort of, maybe not even a physical thing, it could be something emotional, and we are going to speak more about emotional change in a moment when we get to your stories, Darragh. But someone who's going through a seismic change right now that's listening to this podcast, is there any piece of advice or token of wisdom you could share with them, whether it's you who's experienced that seismic change yourself or a family member who's been on that journey with them?
For me, a lot of it is about perspective. When I was in hospital having my amputation, there was a lot of other people with different tumours and stuff like that and had their legs removed. And like Darragh said, I came home 2 weeks later because I recovered so fast. So I came back 6 weeks later after the operation to start my rehab. And I went into the ward expecting to see all of the same faces that were there when I was there. and there was a few faces. But then I asked about the man that was beside me that we shared so much conversations with when Mom had to leave, and his wife, he was an older gentleman, his wife had to leave. He was actually a drummer in a band. We were discussing about how we could adapt his drum set to continue his career as a drummer, and like came back into the ward, wanted to get his McDonald's order because hospital food isn't great, and he was no longer with us. And for me that was like, wow, I'm about to start this new chapter, learning to walk again. My life has just started, and this man's has just ended. So for me it was a real eye-opening experience that like my situation was bad, but his was worse.
For sure.
So for me, I think it's about perspective. I've been blessed with a phenomenal family that I can always talk to about how I feel, what I'm going through. So I'd always just encourage anybody that's going through change, whether you have a close family or not, to just find somebody you can share those emotions with, because I think in this day and age, and I think me and Darragh are getting a lot better at it, it's so okay to it's a sign of strength if you can talk about how you're feeling. So yeah, I would say talk about it, and maybe take a step back, not to minimize your problem, but to step back and have a bit of perspective, in the sense that, okay, I'm healthy, I have food in my belly, I have a roof over my head. Maybe things aren't as bad as I expect right now, or they seem right now, and have just a little bit of perspective.
Before we started recording, Tiarnan, we were speaking a little bit about the leg itself, and about access to prosthetics, and I would love to replicate that conversation exactly, because what you were saying was so important, but would love to just know a little bit about the leg, and about, like, I suppose what people in Ireland that you've spoken to, and then also other people maybe just in general that you've spoken to, have had to go through similarly to you, and I suppose maybe the lack of funding and support that is available to amputees in Ireland specifically. And you can even just start talking about what you were saying before this episode. Doesn't have to answer exactly what I've just asked, but you were saying some really important things about amputees and living as an amputee before we start recording. Yeah,
so I obviously had my operation in London because my tumour was too complex to operate on in Ireland. I would have lost my entire leg, whereas because I went to London, I could keep more of my leg, and it would make my walking better. So as a result of getting my treatment in London, I got a prosthetic in the UK as well, and this prosthetic costs about €60,000, but it was all covered under a EU agreement. If you have to move country to have an operation, it's covered under a clause. Not sure if it's still there because of Brexit, but I was so fortunate in this situation. So I've gone about my life for the last 5 or 6 years with this lovely leg, walking fine, and then it started to break down just before the Paralympics. So I had to start thinking about, okay, after the Paralympics I need to find €60,000 to get this leg, because my leg is it's a microprocessing knee, so it has a computer in it, it has a gyro in it, so when I walk it tries to mimic my left leg, and I charge it every night, so it's a bionic leg essentially. But to my shock and dismay, I came back from the Paralympics, and it was like, okay, yeah, we can get you the same leg, but it's going to cost you €60,000.
Jesus Christ.
And having represented Ireland on that stage, and I had so many politicians shaking my hand and all of this, I was like, how do you tell me I'm great and you want to support me so much for the next cycle into LA, and then tell me, oh yeah, you got to find €60,000 to pay for your leg? So I inquired about it, and I was basically told that it's a privilege to walk in Ireland. Like, that's essentially what we're told. And we're the last EU country in Europe, the last country in Europe that doesn't guarantee prosthetics for amputees. The Irish government do not know how many amputees are in Ireland. They get their data from the NHS England, and they divide it by the population, and that's their guess.
That's
so
crazy.
There's no idea. The Irish government do not have an idea of how many amputees there are in Ireland. So since I moved to Cork, as you might have heard in the story, I've met Jack.
Jack, yeah.
And Jack is an amputee, and he's mad about sport, and he wants to be just like me when he's older. And I keep telling him he can be, but I'm lying to his face because he doesn't have access to the same prosthetics I have access to. I got this new prosthetic only a few weeks ago because I went to the Paralympics as an investment for the next 4 years so I can continue my training to the same level. But I keep telling Jack he can be whatever he wants, you know, he can do whatever he wants, but I'm lying to him because he doesn't have access to the same quality prosthetics in Ireland as he would anywhere else in Europe. So it's something I'm really, really passionate about since I came back from the games. And I really want to like take care of the young amputees in Ireland, because for me the cost is 60,000 euros, but this leg will last me for 6 or 7 years. And it allows me to pursue a career in sport, but if I wanted to, I could pursue a job in whatever I want to do, and I can have a full quality of life. That means I'm out paying taxes, I'm contributing to society, which is what all disabled people want to do. We want to do all of the same things that everybody else does. And my argument is, okay, it's an upfront cost of 60,000 euros, but it's for 6 or 7 years, so we're talking less than 10 grand a year per amputee. There's not a lot of amputees in Ireland. And then you're offsetting it by these amputees are now having fuller, happier lives. They're getting to do the same things all their friends are doing. They get to go out and socialize, they get to work, they get to play sport. So they're healthier and happier people. And then they don't have to rely on the state for money because they can't work, or different things with their mental health and becoming unhealthy because they can't walk. So it's a huge issue that I'm really, really passionate about, and hopefully we can bring about some change in the not too distant future.
But just to clarify then, so you have this new leg for 6 years, and then in 6 years time you're going to need another 60k to replace that. That's not guaranteed.
If I'm still living in Ireland,
yeah.
Right.
So I'm in a position now where I have this as an investment into my career in sport and to represent Ireland again in LA. But when I wrote my letters to all of these TDs and Simon Harris and all of these people, I basically told them that I'm being put in a position, having just represented Ireland on the biggest stage you can go on. I'm considering moving country because I can't get the care in Ireland that I deserve as an amputee, and that all amputees deserve. And that's the sad reality of the situation, that like a lot of amputees are looking to move to different countries so that they can get treatment.
That's insane.
And what was the response from the TDs, which is what we call members of Parliament in Ireland? Did any of them respond? You don't have to name them,
so the power of Instagram. I got a blue tick after the games, so and a few new followers. So I had a bit of leverage, and there was still a lot of hype about the games. So I put up an Instagram story, and I tagged a lot of ministers, sport, disability, all of these big ministers, and within minutes my DMs were full from these TDs, like only a few weeks before the election. So any bad press would be really, really bad for them. So straight away my DMs are full. Send us your number, send us your email, we'll ring you in the morning. And I was flying to Paris the next day, and I was taxiing on the runway, and I got a phone call from one of the ministers, and they said, that thing you were worried about, you don't have to worry about that anymore.
Right.
Which was amazing personally for me. I had this situation with my leg where I came back from the games, and I went from being on top of the world to being stuck in my house because my leg wouldn't work. So I was really happy that I could get taken care of personally, and that my leg was covered, and that's amazing. But it actually infuriated me a little bit, because the only reason I got this care was because of who I am, or what I have achieved recently. But then I think about little Jack. Well, he's not little anymore, he's kind of big, but I think about Jack, and I'm like, if Jack was in that position,
no one would listen.
No one would listen, and he would still be in his bedroom now. So that's what really like drove this passion inside me now, to make change for not just leg amputees but arm amputees in Ireland as well.
And anyone that struggles to have access to the outside world, like easily. Like, I was saying earlier about my mum running a disability sort of transport, where she has those electric scooters, so people can get about wherever they need to get to, come into the town, shop, like just live their lives. And the funding for that, she's constantly fighting, and it's like, as we said, it's less just a physical thing, it's an emotional thing, and this
100%.
insecurity that, you know, after a certain amount of time that you might not be able to have that mobility anymore. It's just like as if you're not going through enough to have to sort of like figure things out, to have to then think about that in the back of your mind. It's just like it's just infuriating, as you say.
Yeah, I think it's something you'll find when talking to anyone with a disability, or the majority of them, they're quite stubborn people, and they want to do things for themselves. We want our own independence,
agency.
Exactly. So it shouldn't be a privilege to walk.
No.
I was unfortunate enough to have this tumor and to have to lose my leg, but I lost the ability to walk, and I should now be told, okay, it's your fault, and it's a privilege for you to.
And you should be so lucky to be able to do it.
Yeah, which is what I was told.
Yeah.
And it, like when I was 19 as well, when I got the amputation and I got this leg in London, they were like, "You're lucky this was in London because we can cover this now." But they were like, "Start saving up." As a 19-year-old still in college, they're like,
Wow.
"Save up for a Range Rover there, 60,000 grand car, basically, for the privilege of walking."
But well done for you for being stubborn, I guess, and trying to push for that. And I hope people listening to this will realise this problem, because it's completely, I don't know, it's shocking to me. I think to all of us.
A lot of people don't know about it.
Know.
Yeah.
You would assume.
Yeah.
You've become, and whether this is what you wanted to be or not, you've definitely become a really important voice for amputees in Ireland and internationally now as well, Tiarnan.
Yeah.
And we'll support you in that campaign if you end up spearheading a campaign to get amputees access to prosthetics, because I think it's something that a lot of people don't have direct contact with, but hopefully through this podcast and other interviews that you do in the future, more and more people do get exposed to how imbalanced it is. But I think, guys, we should listen to Darragh's story. So Tiarnan, if you'd like to do the honour of taking Darragh's story to the floor.
Breathe. Breathe in through your nose, hold it in, then release it out through your mouth. Or is it breathe in through your mouth, hold it in, and then release through your nose? It's the night of the December the 5th, and a storm is brewing. For the past week, I had been dizzy every time I went to my work laptop. My productivity had completely ceased months before this, and replying to co-workers on projects became all too daunting. I had experienced this before, but refused to recognize it for what it was: depression and anxiety. 2 friends I hadn't spoken to in months. I'd been diagnosed the year prior and felt like I'd overcame them. I began running, learned how to do a cartwheel, and challenged myself to say yes to every request and opportunity brought my way. Through running and challenging myself, I found myself again. I moved to Dublin and met some of the best people in my life. The world had made sense, and I was me again for the first time in a long, long time. But here were these 2 ugly feckers back at my door. This time I knew how to beat them. Bigger challenges and longer distances. I asked friends to challenge me to everything and anything. Before I knew it, I had a list in front of me. Do a handstand, do a bridge, rock climbing, eat a raw egg, run a triathlon, learn the aerial hoop, join a football club, and finally do a set of stand-up comedy. As I began running further, my knees gave out to the point where it hurt when I walked down the stairs, and my dizziness with work got worse. I felt myself falling again, and I couldn't tell anyone. I usually have no problem expressing myself. At the last Shanakiha, for example, I told a story about the last time I shat my pants. The theme was childhood, but for further context, I was 25 when this all went down. All thanks to dodgy food trucks in New York. But expressing my feelings of failing to control this part of me felt worse. I had cracked this issue before, so why was doing it again so difficult? The dizziness continued, and the work halted even further. It got to the point where I broke down over the phone to my boss, who was asking for an update on my workflow. While it was tough to tell someone what I was going through, it felt like I was moving in the right direction. What that direction was still confused me. Following some kind words and advice from my boss, I booked an appointment with my GP, who then suggested taking time off work to improve my mental health. With work, I felt anxious and directionless, and without work, I just felt directionless. Still being the 5th of December, the storm was in full effect, and I was being blown side to side while waiting with a friend for a bus. Whenever I speak about my mental health with friends, I feel like I need to add the caveat that I'm working on it. I told her about the state of panic I had been in and that I was using this week off to be more productive. The direction I needed to steer myself towards was productivity, and I needed to be productive this instant. The wind was howling to the point where I felt like I was shouting, which probably meant I was shouting. I told her that I had to make this week mean something. The rain had soaked me to the bone, and the wind had a cruel joke of constantly pulling my hood down. But I have to do something with this week. I have to go running. I have to go on hikes. I have to get back into cycling. I have to write something. I have to learn Lightroom. I have to find a therapist. I have to figure out how to save money in this city. I have to... But you don't have to, she interrupts. You are stuck in a loop of trying to solve all your problems and finding every solution. That is not what this week is about. This week is about letting go of everything. Get a diary and find a place you love being. Write anything and everything down, and then just breathe. A lump gets in my throat, and my shouting through the rain lowers to a quiet thank you. She gets on the bus, and I wait a little longer for mine. For so long I was worried about what I needed to do to fix everything that I didn't realize I didn't have to fix it all right now. I put my headphones back on and watch cyclists and umbrella-wielding tourists struggle to keep dry in the back of a rickshaw. The hood blows down again, and this time I don't fix it. I close my eyes and breathe. Sorry man, do you know where the strip club is? I open my eyes to see someone's dad, absolutely pissed, plastic pint in one hand and cigarette in the other. I take off my headphones. You know the strippers, like tits out strippers. I tell him I don't know, and the bus pulls up. Immaculate timing. Sitting down, I'm surrounded by rowdy drunk lads, shaking their heads dry. This weather is a load of bollocks. Storm Darragh, they're calling it. Storm Darragh. In Leaving Cert English, we call this pathetic fallacy. I just call it feckin' typical. I breathe slowly as I pass the Georgian terraces, phone shops and kebab spots. Between high winds, chanting passengers, and the torrential downpour against the roof of the 123 to Marino, I finally hear silence. My twin arrives to Dublin the next day with a gift for me. A diary. I don't write in it too often, but when I do, I enjoy the chat me and the diary have. I do plan on running a triathlon, doing a stand-up gig, perfecting the handstand, and surviving the aerial hoop, but not right now. Right now I'm breathing. As 2025 comes around, people ask me what my ins and outs are. They are as follows. Breathe in, breathe out.
Bravo! It's so well written. Lads, the two of yous, you're such good writers. Like,
I thought you were going to say the cure to anxiety was going to the strippers. I thought
Oh,
that.
that should have been
I thought
it.
that story was taking a whole different turn there.
Oscar Mason, when do we have a strip club in Dublin?
I don't know if we do.
Don't answer.
No,
It's a trap.
No, you always see in like Temple Bar the guys with like the little pink cardboard things over them that says like champagne strippers, but maybe that's just like some mythical spot that.
Yeah, maybe we do. Someone, if listeners, if you know where the strip club is in Dublin, you can contact us via our Instagram. Not that we wanted to know, we're just interested.
I heard sometimes the best steaks are always cooked in strip clubs.
Well, it's funny in America. So like I used to work for a drinks company, and I worked in sales, alcohol sales specifically, so some of my clients were strip clubs. And whenever you'd go in, you'd always have to do a bar spend, so you'd buy like everyone a shot of whiskey, because I was working for a whiskey company at the time. And on the receipt, instead of saying like O'Donoghue's Irish Pub, it'd, obviously that's not the name, but like let's say the strip club is called Laura's House or something. Instead of saying that, it would
Great
just say,
name.
yeah,
Great name.
good name,
That
right?
was a good name.
It would just say American Restaurant, and basically this is for like men who are having love
Discreet.
affairs, so that the receipts just say American Restaurant or American Family Restaurant rather than Laura's House, because then
wild.
obviously, you know, if the wife found the receipt, they just Google
Yeah.
where
that's
that was.
mad,
And,
yeah.
but sorry, that's a total digression. It's such a lovely story, and it definitely encapsulates probably a lot of anxieties that people are feeling. And your friend did kind of what we were talking about, where she actually just sat with you in that moment. She didn't come to you with a solution. You were being quite solution focused, which I
Yeah.
think we all are when we're going through that turmoil. And she just snapped you out of it and said, no, I'm sorry, like embrace that you're going through a really stressful, anxiety filled time, and don't try and accomplish loads of things during this period. Just actually sit with yourself and lean into it and embrace it.
Yeah.
And that's really good intervention.
No, it was absolutely awesome advice that I got from her. So say thank you to them. But it was like it was interesting because the last, like, you know, when I was first diagnosed with depression and anxiety, I think that was last year, and the way that I got out of it was getting into running and going into therapy and taking medication and doing all these like fun silly challenges and you know, not saying no to something. So it got me into like, you know, working in theatre projects again and stuff like that, and doing things that I love, and it got me actually to, I originally just like moved up to Dublin for a month to do that writing project, and then I had such a great time that I was like, I'm thinking I'm gonna stay here. So at that time, the cure to my anxieties and my low moods was to you know, just tackle everything and just try everything. And so when it came back, it was kind of like I just like started panicking, and I was like, okay, well then we gotta step it up, because it's not gonna work as well if we just do it. This is the exact same way. And I guess this kind of bout of it that I was kind of facing in December, I'd learned that there needs to be like, no, is it yin and yang, you know, where it's like just you know, sometimes it's going to be the depression that's keeping me in one space, and sometimes it's the anxiety that's going to fill me up with too much of everything, that it makes it kind of terrifying to move. And it's about finding that, just like that balance of doing what you love, which I love doing that stuff. I love running. I love giving myself challenges, but also giving myself the chance to take everything in. And it was very weird, because that night, like, I hadn't ever thought of that as a solution, to just, you know, to just breathe and just relax, because I think it was just like last time everything was like solution focused, and this time it was just like, yeah, you feel like shit, just, you know, understand why, instead of trying to, I guess, outrun it.
I think maybe like the first time that you had it, like, I think anxiety and depression it's not just that, it's not the same thing, it's like different, it's like a different challenge underneath it. And I think maybe the first time to you was like, you know, actually having the motivation or do things for yourself, right? Care for yourself, like go and do those things that make you happy, like going to Dublin and doing that course and like doing the things that you love. But the second time, I feel like, is actually the opposite, in the sense of you needed rest, and like your body was literally shutting down a bit. And I think that's where we get confused, because you're like, oh, it feels like the same feeling, but it's actually not coming from the same place or the same issue. And it's then every time it comes back, it could be the same issue, but it could be a different one that then you have to realize. And that's like quite a like frightening thing, because as you say, you think you know it, like, you know, but you don't. It's still, you know.
And it can happen at times when you, like exactly what Beck said, so you had two different experiences of it by the sounds of it, where one time was when things had stagnated and the other time was when things had accelerated. You know, you were really busy, you were doing loads, and suddenly boom. It happened to me this year in August, which is the month that everyone loves August is the month of rest. It's when you go on holidays, it's great crack. I was like, this is the worst, it's the most miserable I've been in around 5 years, and I felt so alone, because it's a time of the year when everyone's actually meant to be in good form, And I've never felt more alone in that period. And it was only when I started soundboarding it with other friends, being like, I fucking hate August, it's the worst month of the year. Sorry, haters, if you love August. That other people were talking about how they also have felt that weird feeling of like loneliness in a busy room while everyone else is doing loads. You didn't even expect to feel lonely in that busy room because you were just as busy as the other people around you. It can almost feel worse because it's like, Jesus, like there's no reason to explain this apart from the fact that I'm actually probably, you know, having some sort of chemical, literal mental reaction to everything around me. And it can be quite daunting. It's only when you talk to people who've experienced similarly that it can actually just feel very, I suppose, validating. Not that you need to be validated to feel good mentally, but when you're feeling that lonely attachment to a mental mishap, it can just feel so reassuring when other people have gone through the same thing.
And it can be confusing, you know. It can be really confusing where it's just like, you know, example like when you're saying with August that's everyone's like favorite month, you know, like around that time when I started experiencing again in December, everything was going well. I was, you know, I was living a house with people that I've really grown to love and have great time for. I met this huge network of people up in Dublin, and my social life was booming. I was like, you know, running, but it was like, even though everything was like, what, you know, when people like kind of go like, when you first like talk about depression, they go like, they give you a bunch of things where it's like, you should do like breathing exercises, you should go to these therapists, you should go to like this and this, like the solutions,
Prescriptive.
So, you know, like everything was going right, but I was still confused about why I was just like kind of feeling locked in. I think it's about like trying to find, like, the only way to kind of not get out of that funk but manage it is by understanding what's, you know, what is your what is causing you to feel like this, rather than what, you know, scientists or like things would say, because, you know, you're like, August is a beautiful month and stuff like that, but you're probably experiencing things that everything could be going right and then it just still happens.
It's such a weird feeling. You just feel kind of fooled.
Even with family as well, like, how did you feel like hearing about your brother being diagnosed, because it's relatively recent. Yeah. And then obviously December, so that's what, a month ago in this current time frame that you've been going through this struggle, so even coming today is quite impressive. But how did you feel?
Like I touched on in my story, like, Darragh's the funniest, happiest person I know, but it just goes to show that you can hide the way you're truly feeling with a smile, and he's got a very nice one, and he got a great sense of humor, so he can fill a room yet feel so empty in that room as well, which is, I've never experienced it, thankfully, but like, knowing he has experienced it was really tough for me, but I've seen him come out of it, and I know he has the tools to come out of it again, and I think he has already. And I think that 5th of December thing came at like a beautiful time, because around that time he got the time off work, and then there was a Shanachia in Belfast, and I was hosting the Shanachia, and he had gotten the time off to just focus on himself, focus on what he needed to do, and photography is a big passion of his. So I drove to Dublin. I texted you, I said, do we need a photographer?
I was like, fuck, we do!
So then it was a chance for Darragh to do what he really loves doing, and really like use those tools, those creative tools that he has to express himself. So we went to Belfast, and that's when we opened up in the car about how he was feeling, because like I said, we don't live together anymore, so we keep in contact or whatever, but we don't have those proper conversations. So when we're locked in a car together, we have to talk about it. You know, so we talked about it, and the Shanachia has been a great way for us as a family. The way I got into Shanachia and the way Darragh got into Shanachia is Keelan went and surprised us, and he talked about his mental health, and I knew he had gone through struggles, but never to to the rawness I never heard before, and we cried and we laughed and we cried some more, but it brought us closer. And a bit like when we went to Belfast, that journey up to do a show brought us closer together. And then the next day I went out and did my things, and then I came back with a diary and said, here's another tool for you to help yourself get out of this. Or like Darragh said, we can sit in the mud as well, you know. There's no rush in fixing everything right now.
But guys, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you in. Do you have any other?
I would just like to ask, just on the theme of letting go, is there anything that you would suggest that the audience let go of now we're going into the new year?
Tell people you love them. We've made it a habit that, without a doubt, every time we finish a conversation, whether he's leaving the house to go back to Dublin or whether it's on the phone, we always finish with I love you. Because as men and women too, I suppose, we don't tell people that we love them. So whether it's my friends, my mother or anything, I always finish every conversation with I love you, because just in case something would happen, it'd be such a nice thing to be remembered by, that the last thing we said was I love you. So yeah, tell people you love them.
Thanks so much.
Yeah, guys, this has been class.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having us. Yeah, it's been fun.
Join us next time to walk in more people's shoes, hear stories around different themes, and have more great discussions. Don't forget to hit subscribe, and we look forward to you joining us next time to connect through the power of shared storytelling.